Once upon a time, in ancient Greek folklore, there were nymphs, minor female deities associated with nature. They were unlike any other Greek goddesses, being personifications of natural elements and typically tied to a specific place or landform. Nymphs were immortal beings, but one subgroup, the hamadryads, had their lives bound to a specific tree. Nymphs were divided into various subgroups, such as the Melii, the Dryads, the Naiads, the Nereids, and the Oreads. They inspired classic works of art, literature, mythology, and fiction, and were often featured in stories of gods, heroes, and mortals. They helped, fell in love, and sometimes competed for mortal attention. Over time since the Middle Ages, nymphs have also been popularly associated or even confused with fairies. Despite this, they continue to hold a special place in the collective imagination of humanity as bewitching spirits of the natural world. Once upon a time, in the lush forests of ancient Greece, there lived a group of nymphs. These ethereal spirits were known not only for their otherworldly beauty, but also for their close association with specific natural surroundings. Some were found in mountainous regions, others in dense forests, and still, others in the crystal-clear springs that dotted the countryside. The nymphs were believed to be bound to these places, much like the Latin genius loci, and were often thought to be part of the retinue of a god or goddess. One nymph, in particular, Arethusa, was worshipped in Sicily with a complicated cult that involved elaborate rituals and sacrifices. But not all nymphs were revered in such grandiose ways. In fact, some were simply venerated by country people in the remote springs and clefts of Latium. These nymphs were beloved by many, even if the literate class mostly saw them as divinities of the watery element. Over time, the nymphs began to absorb the indigenous Italian divinities of springs and streams, and this led to some odd myths, such as the Nymphi, Italian water goddesses, being identified with the Greek Nymphi due to the similarity of their names. Nonetheless, the nymphs remained an integral part of classical mythology and continue to be celebrated in countless tales and stories. Once upon a time, in ancient Greece, the belief in nymphs was prevalent and continued well into the 20th century. These beautiful beings were known as Nereids in later years and were often found in remote areas away from human habitation. One particular traveler, named Alex, was passing through such an area when he heard the most fascinating music. Driven by curiosity, he followed the sounds until he stumbled upon a group of nymphs dancing and playing music near a calm stream. Alex couldn't help but watch in awe at the beautiful creatures before him. Suddenly, one of the nymphs noticed him and beckoned him to join in their dance. Without hesitation, Alex jumped into the circle and began to dance with them. The music was so enchanting that he lost track of time and danced until the middle of the night. As the sun began to rise, the nymphs bid him farewell and disappeared into the forest. Alex went on his way, feeling both exhilarated and fearful of the encounter. However, he couldn't shake off his desire to see the nymphs again. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, but Alex couldn't forget the beauty of the nymphs. He became obsessed with finding them again and returned to the same spot where he had found them, hoping for another encounter. Little did Alex know that his constant search for the nymphs had caught the attention of Saint Artemidos. Worried that Alex had fallen under the spell of the Nereids, Saint Artemidos decided to intervene and showed himself to Alex in a dream. In the dream, Saint Artemidos warned Alex of the dangers of his infatuation with the nymphs and urged him to pray for help instead of seeking them out. Alex woke up with a newfound sense of clarity and realized the gravity of his actions. From then on, Alex never sought out the nymphs again and instead prayed to Saint Artemidos for protection. He realized that the beauty of the nymphs was not worth the negative consequences of dumbness, infatuation, madness, or even stroke. Despite their dangers, many people still sought out the nymphs for their unique beauty and enchanting music, willing to risk the consequences for the chance to encounter these mystical creatures. During the Renaissance period, a wealthy Italian nobleman, Giovanni, became entranced with the myth of a sleeping nymph statue found in a grotto or spring. He longed to have his own version of the stunning sculpture in his garden for his guests to admire. Giovanni searched high and low for an original statue, but to no avail. One day, he happened upon a report of a similar statue found in an Italian fountain during Roman times. He immediately commissioned an artist to create a replica of the sleeping nymph based on the description from the report. The replica was quickly completed and placed in Giovanni's garden. It was so captivating that other wealthy nobles began commissioning replicas for their own estates. However, it was later discovered that the report of the statue and the accompanying poem were forgeries from the 15th century. Despite this, the motif of the sleeping nymph statue remained popular among artists and landscape gardeners for centuries. Many copies of these statues can still be found in neoclassical gardens like the grotto at Stourhead, a testament to the enduring appeal of this Renaissance-era motif.